And we are back. Welcome once again, friends, to another episode of Victor Escalante Live. We have another very interesting discussion, the dumpster fire of the presidential election.
Wow.
Joining me remotely is Jose Monterrosa and Dr. Michelle Wickmandy. Welcome, guys.
Thank you,
Hello.
Victor. Yeah, I mean, very interesting conversation about what happened last week, right? And what can happen in the coming months, I think.
Yes, so I want to full transparency. This is not a political discussion. This is
Right.
actually the intersection of media, PR, strategy, and demographics. The new demographic of America. That's what we're going to be doing a deep dive into, as far as what is happening based upon what we know, and then what are voices saying out there, prominent voices that may have an impact on how we move forward. So, who's going to get us started?
Uh, I I can get everyone started here. Let's talk about what communication wise what
Okay.
happened during the debate, right? Uh, we saw two different characters presenting themselves to the national audience with two different, very different approaches for different reasons, right? So the thing that got me the most is, first of all, the way they differentiate with each other, but one being very I guess aggressive with the way he was trying to set up the debate, and the other one being perceived as someone that maybe was in another place and not necessarily at the debate, and was took a very step back, defensive mode, and probably not very aware of the conversation or the things that were being discussed at the moment. So that is one of the things that caught a lot of my attention. What are you trying to accomplish here? What are you trying to communicate here
Yeah,
to the
let
people
me
that
comment about that. What
okay.
happens typically, and again, this is my area of expertise,
Uh-huh.
communication, as well as political consulting, because behind the scenes, I do a lot of consulting with different entities. And I'm going to reference a study that I was commissioned to do by a state agency that is a nonprofit, to try to understand what happened in the valley. They called it the miracle, the GOP
Hmm.
miracle down in the valley, and I think it's quite interesting and sobering to understand what is happening today in America with a younger demographic. Okay,
Okay.
uh, so uh, so in communication, whoever sets the frame controls the messaging.
Hmm.
So it is clearly
Who
clearly
set the
established that
frame?
Trump set the frame. And so, because of that, because I think Trump was more forceful and dominant in establishing the frame, now the discussion, Biden has basically lost the discussion, because now he's having to talk inside of that frame that Donald Trump created. And so from there, it turned into elder abuse. Michelle,
Well,
So
what are your thoughts?
well, I agree with Jose. I think that Biden appeared distracted,
Yes.
and there's always that when you're going to do a presentation, step one is show up. Show up
Yes.
and be interested, know your topic, and leave the distractions at the door. So it did seem that Mr. Biden was appeared distracted, and because of that, I think um, he wasn't always on par with the conversation. So again, step number one, show up, be prepared, stay on topic, as opposed to diverting the conversation. And then the other thing too is just framing the issues and staying and knowing what your agenda is. So there's always two sides of a story, right? So being able to frame your issue and address the societal issues, the problems, what you're going to address, how you're going to address these. And again, it's knowing your audience, speaking to them, and using the language that resonates with them if you want their buy-in.
But I have something to say about that. I guess you can frame, the dialogue, or if there's any dialogue at all. But is that communicating the message? Because I guess I understand setting the tone up front, right, of what this debate is going to be about. But my question will be, are you really communicating something, or are you here to have a cat and dog fight at the debate? I
Yeah,
think
my
that
comment
those two.
to your comment, Jose, is that uh, again, so Trump clearly set the frame, and now
Mhm,
it's noise making if you are not addressing the audience and
mhm.
what's important to the audience, and why people are tuned in to listen to what you have to say and how you're going to lead America in the next 4 years. So again, this whole nonsense about playing golf and who's a better golf player and everything else that is not relevant to leadership and where the country is headed in the next 4 years, to establish a clear choice. That's where, in my opinion, that's where the two candidates really went off the rails.
So so yeah, I
No,
was.
I agree. It's identifying what the societal problems are
Yes,
and then approaching it.
I don't care who has a better golf game. I care about interest rates. I
Mhm.
care about the security of the country. I care about whether democracy will survive.
And
so so again, it's like there was a missed opportunity by Biden, and there was a lot of bait and switch from Trump.
well, you're right. They didn't necessarily answer some of the questions.
Yes,
But
they completely ignored it, and there was a lot of misinformation coming out of Trump's mouth that the moderators did not even attempt to reframe, address, or question.
they let the
So
candidates go on
Yes,
and talk about what was important to them. The um, the people tuned in because they wanted to know what do the candidates stand for, what issues are important to them, how are they going to address these. And Victor, as you say, the candidates went off the rails and talked about anything but.
let me
so
ask you guys this question. I have this
yeah.
question for you guys.
Okay.
Because I've been there at some debates, and I've even been in the spin room after debates to listen to all the victory laps that candidates are taking. Do you think that people tuned in really as far as issues, or do you think that this was like a gladiator fight because there was so much anticipation that had been built up towards the debate, or would you say that that it's 50-50? What's your
That
take?
that is exactly what I was going to go next. I mean, what was the real purpose of this then?
Exactly.
I mean, was it CNN just putting up a show that they invited people to watch, and or was it meant to be done the way it is supposed to, right?
Yeah.
Approach to issues.
Right.
My take is that maybe both candidates didn't necessarily saw this as an opportunity to communicate what they were trying to do, but more like show up. And this is me, this is my name, this is who I am, and that's about it. Because I'm not going to even listen or answer the questions that the moderators are presenting. So, are debates, or is this format the ideal format to make decisions for the nation? I get the feeling that it's not anymore. Maybe this type of debate is dated, or maybe it's simply not working, and we need to switch to something else. Especially, with the social media being so strong right now, you have to wonder, if this is the right format. And I'm saying this also because I don't know if this happened to you, but Biden did something right after the debate. All of a sudden, and I don't know why, and I guess it's because I follow a lot of politicians on my social media. I started seeing this massive amount of Biden ads on my social media. But it happened like right away. Like they were ready for it.
They had them ready for sure.
Yeah.
They have to. They have to have content ready to go to pull the trigger, preparing for both sides, for both outcomes, because
Right.
clearly there was a lot of buildup in that. Again, the message that Biden is too old to lead, which,
Uh-huh.
by the way, that was manufactured by the GOP to be run across all of the TV network of. Do you guys remember the TV network that was running the exact same story? It was basically commentary disguised as news. Uh, was it Cumulus? They have hundreds of TV stations, and again, it was the same clip that was run
Really?
across the country. That was propaganda disguised as news.
Hmm. But if I started seeing that on my social media, obviously I fall
Yeah,
into their profile, right?
absolutely. So think of confirmation bias. If
Mhm.
you believe that because that was planted into you, then now you're looking at the situation through a lens that is not even your own. It's a confirmation that was put upon you to now filter out rational thinking.
And then the other thing that I'm hearing related to the debate is that and I agree with some of this. I mean, in the past, the idea or one of the tactics that Republicans have used is to present the other person on the other side as someone that is not capable or is not does not have the cognitive capacity uh, to lead the nation. And that I remember seeing a lot
They
of ads
they
on
did
social
the same
media.
with Hillary Clinton, that she was too old,
Exactly.
that she was
Yes.
having health problems. That was
Yeah.
all a
So
lie.
and I wonder. Okay, I saw Biden talking and having challenges, communicating what he
There
wanted
was
to
no question
communicate.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah, but in this case, I guess the opportunity is there to even reinforce the fact that this individual is not capable of leading the nation.
Well,
Michelle,
it,
did you see the news reports this morning on what the Biden campaign is rolling out as a cause for that cognitive confusion?
no, I didn't see that.
What
But what
about
I
you,
was
Coach?
going to
Go ahead, Michelle.
I was going to say, so you're absolutely right, Jose. They planted the seed, right? They've been planting the seed about um, the president's cognitive state, but now it was reiterated, and then we saw the debate, and basically it's reinforced. I mean, it's very strong reinforcement. So if there were questions about the um, cognitive ability of the president before, after seeing the debate, and again, doesn't it go back to being prepared, showing up, and being present in the moment?
And you got to also think, well, was that the real purpose of Trump? What was that the goal? To ensure the audience that this guy is not capable, is simply not there. Uh, I will assume that maybe yes. I mean that was one of the main goals, not necessarily to communicate, his platform, not necessarily to talk to America and say this is what I plan to do. I want to make sure that people understand that this individual here is not capable of leading
And
the
keep in
nation.
mind that prior to the debate, there's a lot on social media videos and commentary on how Trump is in decline and how
Mhm.
he's forgetting a lot of things, and
Right.
how in some of his stump speeches he can't string together a coherent commentary or argument with the boat and the sharks
Yeah.
and the
What I find interesting is that the political debate should have presented issues from both sides,
yes,
maybe bridging the divide that is currently felt within the nation. That's what the that's what it should have been. But here we are, we're having a discussion and we're talking about the age of the candidates
yes.
Yeah.
and their cognitive ability.
I looked it up, guys, and the TV network is Sinclair TV Networks that they own. They own Fox. They own CNN. They own all these different stations, and they're not necessarily linked necessarily just to Fox, but they have ABC and NBC programming. And again, that one. I saw it, and I saw the exact same news segment that was run. It was a scripted news segment to show that that Biden is incompetent because of his age. Now, so what the campaign put out this morning is that the reason Biden did not perform adequately was because of jet lag from overseas trip, which is it's valid,
Mhm.
but again, why would you
Why
plan a
would you
trip?
travel right before the?
Why would you travel and plan a trip if you are not going to be at the top of your game?
Right.
And you know, this is not the first time that he engages Trump on this type of format. So he the team behind him, Biden, knew exactly what was coming, right? I mean, I don't think they
Yes,
were expecting Trump to be, I mean, an intellectual talking about, you know, all these things about the economy and the country. I mean, I think they were expecting some aggressive approach on that debate. So why not be prepared for it?
yeah.
You know that that there's going to be a lot of talk and not so much fact checking. So why and there's no way to get lost in regards to what the issues are going to be talked about. So if you know that is coming, why not be prepared for it? That was my main thing when I saw that, and when I thought of this after the debate. I mean, were they not really that prepared for something like this? It's hard to believe. So
And yeah, and instead of answering the question, right, you respond appropriately. Thank you, Mr. Trump, Mr. Biden, for that commentary. Now back to the question. This is how I would address
Yes,
this policy
sure,
issue.
absolutely,
And that would have been
absolutely.
an easy way to stay on point and to show the nation that you have the nation's best interests at heart,
I
staying
read
focused.
I read two stories that now Fox News is a fan of CNN.
how can that happen?
Because the allegation is that CNN is trying to cater to the right,
Really?
the new demographic, and so they've had some mishaps with trying to cater too much to the right, and
Hmm.
then having it blow up in their face with different incidents of journalists quitting because they went too far. And so again, that's the new landscape of media is trying to be all things to all people, and you can't.
You can, yeah. And talking about language, Victor, uh, we both saw the comments that James Carville is the
Yes,
way.
James
Yeah,
Carville.
interesting thoughts about what is going on with messaging in regards to the Democrats.
Let's go ahead and put that up, Jose. You want to share that with us?
Oh, I'm not prepared for that, but I can read it.
Go ahead and read it to us.
Okay, so he pointed out five things that I think are important for any communicator to understand and to
So
evaluate
millennials,
what.
just for context, Carville is a longtime Democratic strategist that was credited with winning the election for Bill Clinton. Go ahead, Jose.
Yeah. So I saw that and I thought, well, this is very interesting because this matters on any side of of where you stand in terms of ideology and political views. But first thing, and this is like his observations to the Democrats, okay, in the way they are communicating with their followers. Avoid overly academic or coded language. We, I can relate to that, and I'll tell you why. I'm going to use a term that has been used for many years to identify Latinos, and that is Latinx. Okay, and more recently, I heard something Latine with a ni at the end, which I thought, I was scratching my head and what is this? Is that the new one? So Latinx. Do I feel that is something that identifies me? Not really. I feel like somebody decided to come up with this term, and it's putting Latinos in this bucket called Latinx, right? In my view, I'm still a Latino. I'm still a Hispanic, but and the fact is, according to research, that most Latinos don't identify with that term, Latinx. And
So let me interject something about your comment here, Jose.
Okay.
Related to the study that I was commissioned to do.
Uh-huh.
The Valley totally rejected all the messaging from the Democratic Party that was coming out with a profile of California Latinos, okay?
Okay.
Because again, they're almost like a separate little country down there along the border. And I've traveled extensively to the Valley on business, and I know the culture. And what happened is they are predominantly a very conservative, family-oriented demographic that they like guns, they like liberty, they like the oil business because there's a lot of people that work in the oil industry.
Right.
And they like the messaging of being white. Okay. Yes,
Okay,
even though they may be brown, even though they may be Mexican American, Latino, whatever you want to call them, they kind of look up to the word patron as being the white dominant Hispanic ranch holder. So it was more of a Tejano culture, Tejano identity that was different than the Latinx from California or other parts of the country, that they just completely rejected that messaging from the Democratic Party.
Interesting that you say that about white, right? Because I wonder if that is something that they aspire to. Or...
They do. That's what the research showed. Also, check this out. The 94.27 are Hispanics in the Rio Grande Valley. Okay. So that is huge demographic of Latinos. And what happened is that this new young demographic of Latinos are more upward. There's an upward mobility factor. They're more educated. And again, it's like they have a totally different mindset and ethos. And also, they viewed during the lockdown of COVID, they viewed it as a tyrannical move by the government, because again, they come from the mentality of being oppressed. But again, they identified with the white demographic, and again, on census, Latinos are white. Okay, and so again, the messaging was over and over and over again of being white, of being the new generation. Look at the advertising years ago, Jose, with Pepsi as the brand of a new generation. So that's what happened. And then again, the populist movement was started by one man down in the Valley when on the 4th of July, several years back, he decided under lockdown, he decided to put a couple of American flags in posted on his truck, and right
Mhm.
around town with his kids. And people were honking at him, and then they started joining and creating a caravan that
Okay.
that this he was the father. He was the originator of the Trump caravans that went throughout the country. And of course, legacy media had to cover them at that point because
Mhm.
he was creating traffic jams for miles and miles of bringing attention to the patriotism. Okay, so
And
go ahead.
yeah, I was going to say, the thing about, that is something that they aspire to, or that is
Yes,
something that they recognize
yes,
as an issue. Uh, but guess what? This is the guy that is giving me a job,
yes,
and you trying to take my jobs
yes.
away, or what? Because that may be another way of looking at this. Uh, uh, the fact that, yeah, I mean, I have a problem with my boss, but he's my boss, and he's the one that is giving me work. And that is how I sustain this family. So, uh, interesting that you say that, that is probably something that they aspire to, but I wonder if there's more than that, in the sense of trying to protect my family, my economy,
Well, it's a
and
very independent minded demographic that on weekends, again, they live for carne asada, for
uh
talking politics. And so what happened is that bled into the region. And as a result of that, there was political candidates that were elected into office because of the wave that all these elements created down in the valley to elect Republican Latinos. Okay, now
here's
Republicans were in vogue among Latino demographics, and this was a shift, guys, of over 100 years that Latinos have dominated politics in South Texas.
The going piggybacking on that, so it would be in the politician's best interest to do some collaborative narrative building, understanding their audience, right? Going back to understanding the audience and building that narrative that fits with their beliefs, their having
And that's,
empathy
yeah,
and understanding.
piggybacking on what you're saying, Michelle, that's a big criticism among Democrats that want the vote is like the GOP went door to door knocking during the lockdown, talking and engaging directly with Latinos, as opposed to Democrats doing wholesale politicking, never engaging directly, never going to the communities, just running big advertising campaigns on TV and radio. That's
interesting.
the
Okay.
big disconnect. So it's like, who do
Yeah.
you think they're going to believe that really cares about their community?
And interesting you say that, because that's actually the problem with Republicans in Houston, I would say. I
Yes,
mean,
yes.
they don't, as far as I know, they don't dominate the neighborhoods. Democrats do,
It's the
because they
reverse
do a,
in Houston. I don't think that the miracle down in the valley could be duplicated in Houston because we have different habits. We have a totally different mindset compared to the valley.
what do you think about this other comment that Carvajal made? Balance feminine and masculine messaging,
The
in the
messaging in
community.
the valley was totally masculine. Okay, strong. Oh, you need someone strong to protect the border. The gentleman that created the Trump caravans, he was interviewed on national TV, and they asked him, "How do you feel about the border wall?" And he said,
Mhm.
"I think the border wall should be longer and taller." Okay,
Okay.
this is an immigrant. This is an immigrant from Mexico that became a U.S. citizen, saying this on national TV. As a
Hmm.
result of that, he ended up being interviewed on InfoWars.
Interesting. Okay.
And of course,
And
the message just went viral because here you have Latinos saying the wall needs to be longer, and taller.
The other thing that he mentioned, and I know that we're running out of time here, focus on winning elections over ideological purity.
Yes.
I have a disagreement with that, but what is your thought
Well,
on that?
political purity is being pro-immigration, traditional, and again, we're stereotyping here because for the sake of time and for the sake of a broader discussion, Democrats have traditionally been pro-immigration. Look at how Biden has had to pivot and put a restriction on asylum policy, because again he was just being hammered quite a bit with the immigration debate, and it's clearly that we need an update on immigration, but it's not going to happen. It's like there was an opportunity to secure the border with bipartisan legislation, but that was killed because Trump said to kill it because it's bad for his politics. Because then Biden would take credit for that. So again, I think we're beyond the age of purity, and we need to focus on winning. And you have to look at what are the winning elements. And so Clinton was extremely successful as a politician because he swung from the left to the center left, and his messaging was spot on with a lot of the issues that were important to Americans.
And that's what happened with Biden during the last election, right? I mean,
yes,
he shifted to the center for the most part. I mean, replicating an ad from that was launched during the Ronald Reagan years. I mean, that was interesting because in a way he was like kind of trying to mimic that message about.
Sure.
I think, yeah. So hey, we are 32 minutes into the show. This has not been a conversation about whether you are a Democrat or a Republican, but more analyzing the messages and the way that candidates are presenting themselves to America. There is more to this, I'm sure. So this is going to be an ongoing conversation, I think.
This is what us nerds, media nerds, live for. to see a fire in how media is responding, and then both sides. Michelle, any final words?
I think it goes back to understanding your audience and understanding their concerns and showing empathy, listening, and especially for the marginalized communities, don't stereotype, listen to them, speak to them, and use the right language. And by language, what I mean is use the words they use the phrasing that they use so it resonates with them, as opposed to stereotyping and assuming that because a specific demographic appears a certain way that they are going to respond.
And speaking above their level, speaking in very abstract intellectual terms, talk with
them.
Talk to people in people talk.
And I will add a little bit about that. The fact that some of this language is being generated by people that are probably not from the community.
Yes,
that makes it even worse.
That does not translate at the grassroots level. Some of the messaging that is being generated by wonks, by intellectual wonks in Washington, and think tanks that they're saying this is what we need to be messaging. It's not working. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
So it'll be interesting to see how this evolves. So next week we'll either return back to the Dallas Cowboys cheerleader debate, or we'll continue with this conversation.
Yeah, let's talk about Republicans and their messages. I think that that's worth exploring.
Absolutely. Anyway. By the way, Jose, we called it with the mayoral election of how the messaging by Mayor Whitmire was on point, and how his campaign really ran a good campaign with messaging wise and as well as his website. So
It was very
let's do a deep
clear.
dive into Republican messaging next week then.
Awesome. All right. Thank
Until
you very
next
much.
time, go out and have a great week.
All right.
All
Bye-bye.
right.
Bye.
Bye.